In this video I'm going to be sharing with you another way that you can consume tonic herbs as well as some of these other superfoods. It's going to be a bit of a fudge, a bit of a chocolate creation, and I'm going to go through and show you which ingredient I'm going to put in as well as the amounts, and just basically give you a foundation so you can start to really craft something like this for yourself. And this is good to have, in the freezer, in the refrigerator, or sometime when you're on the go and you need, some herbs, or you need something to hold you over, you need a snack, or you want something sweet, but you don't want to go to the store and buy, something from there. So what we're going to need here is obviously a bowl to mix in, and I recommend a deep bowl so you can get in and mix these powders up. So first we're going to start off with our dry ingredients, and then we're going to add our wet ingredients to that. So the first thing we're going to add that's going to make this, of course, a bit of a chocolate fudge is, of course, chocolate. So I'm going to be using about a tablespoon of Ultimate Superfoods cacao powder, and just a tablespoon of that. And to really work with that chocolate flavor, I'm going to use about a tablespoon, actually 2 tablespoons of the Dandy Blend. Actually, just about a heaping tablespoon of Dandy Blend, just because that'll really mesh well and really complement and round out the chocolate flavor. Now, on that bitter note, on the dark note, we're going to go with a tablespoon of Dwanwood reishi extract. So I'm going to take about a heaping tablespoon there and just go ahead and dump that in. And of course, it wouldn't be complete unless I was breathing some in. And yeah, that's another way I guess you can take a reishi, is you open the bag, the vapors come up, you just breathe it in, cough, feel great. So the next ingredient we're going to add, since we've been on more of the dark bitter route, now I'm going to add in something that's going to really cream this up and give it a milkiness, and also give it some protein, some growth factors, and some immunofactors. And that is, of course, grass-fed, raw, cold processed whey protein powder. So I'm going to add 1 scoop and 2 scoops to this. And you can add more or less depending on how much protein that you're really after. And this has a really milky, creamy vanilla flavor, which is going to go really well with those bitter herbs and the bitter superfoods from the chocolate in the Dandy Blend. Now, if you had some Sun Warrior or some other protein that you're working with that's going to taste good and be creamy, of course you can add that in. But right now, I've been doing rice protein for the last couple months. Now I'm trying out some cold processed whey protein, seeing how that works. So the next ingredient we're going to add, since we're on the smooth, creamy route, is of course vanilla powder. And that's about a tablespoon of Ultimate Superfoods ground vanilla powder. Next up, one of my favorite ingredients is pine pollen. So we're going to add about a tablespoon of pine pollen powder in here, just because any more than that, and it'll probably throw the flavor, and it'll probably just add a bit too much, powder to our fudge here. So that's pretty much everything we're going to add. I'm going to actually grab a little pinch of salt. Actually, I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to do one better. So now when we're going to get to our wet ingredients, what we're going to be using is, instead of salt, I'm going to add some angstrom trace minerals, because these have a bit of a salty flavor. So I'll be able to actually get some minerals into this, which will make it even more nutritious. And then I'll be adding some English Toffee stevia, as well as a bit of raw honey, and some melted coconut oil, which I've already melted in. So the first thing we want to do is we just kind of want to stir this around and just kind of make sure that our powders are evenly mixed together. This is really just going to save us trouble later on when we're mixing in the wet ingredients. So just a good tip that I like to do is just kind of stir everything in, break up any clumps, and just make sure everything is mixed thoroughly together. And I guess you could kind of compare that to sifting if you're baking a cake or something. So the next thing we're going to add in is going to be the melted coconut oil. And that's about 3 tablespoons of melted coconut oil. could do more or less. Just keep in mind it's going to affect the texture of our end product. And the next ingredient I'm going to add is going to be some raw honey. Now keep in mind, if you wanted to do sugar-free, you could just take some birch xylitol powder and stevia and just roll with that. But because the honey is going to help get rid of the dryness from this, because if you just take powders without something to moisten it up, you're going to put it in your mouth and it's going to feel really dry and nasty, or you're going to have to add a lot of water to moisten it up. So to kind of mitigate that and bypass that, I'm just going to do about a nice tablespoon of raw honey. And you could melt this down a little bit beforehand, and that would make your mixing process a little bit easier, but I didn't really think that far in advance, so I'm just throwing it in. Now, the next thing I'm going to add is going to be about a squirt of English toffee stevia. You could use, vanilla stevia, chocolate stevia, whatever you have, whatever you're working with. And the next ingredient is going to be about two squirts or so of the ionic trace minerals, which are actually angstrom minerals, meaning they're really small size, so your cells can actually absorb them and use them. And according to their website, you get actually a 99% absorption rate, which is incredibly high and really beneficial if we're going to be taking a supplement. So now you basically just want to take your wooden spoon and just mix this up, kind of beat this up and stir it up. And I can already tell you the smells coming off of this is really, really nice. And this is something that if you make and you have around, people might start to kind of want to see what you're into and see, what is that you're eating, what's that all about. And I can tell you, in my early days of making things like this, I actually was working at a coffee shop. It was one of the last jobs I actually had. And every day before I would come into work, I would make something like this of herbs and cacao and maca. And actually, I don't think I even added maca. So actually, you know what? I didn't add it, so it's probably a sign. I'm just not going to worry about it. So I would bring in some fudge like this, and people would just see me eating this bowl of chocolate, and they're like, "Why are you just eating chocolate? Like you can't. I thought you were supposed to be like healthy or something. You're just guzzling all this chocolate." So then it kind of opened a dialogue about cacao and about all these herbs, and then come to find out people who were just coming from a junk food kind of diet paradigm were just able to really try and taste something so far outside of their normal realm of experience and really have good results with it, catch a buzz from it, feel good from it, have energy from it, and actually be able to taste it and eat it. So as you can see, it's kind of like wet sand at this point. So that means everything is probably congealed and mixed together. So the next thing we need to add is a little bit of water. So here I have a little bit of spring water, and you always want to start with less water and add more, because if you just dump in too much, you're going to be left with like chocolate fudge soup, which is not really going to be too pleasant, and it's really going to ruin your texture, and you're probably going to end up wasting all of your ingredients. So I just probably added about an ounce, and then I'm just going to stir this up and keep stirring and stirring, and eventually everything is going to come together, and we're going to reach a critical mass where this is really just going to fill out and really be quite nice. So it looks like I'm going to need just a little bit more water. So I'm going to add another few ounces there, and that should probably do it. So I'm just going to keep stirring and stirring. You got to kind of just beat it up and really, put some elbow grease into it, if you want to call it that. And you'll notice that I did add just a little bit too much water, because you notice if you listen, I don't know if you can hear that, it's kind of sticky, and there's a little bit of moisture on the side of the bowl. So that is indicating to me that I added a little bit too much water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to taste it. And it tastes amazing. It's one of the best things I've ever tasted. Wow, it's really good. So, because it's a little too moist, what I'm going to do is add a little bit more powder to it. You know, you could add a little bit more maca, you could add a little bit more cacao powder, whatever it is that you want to add. But for me, because I really like the way, and I really like the way it tastes, and the elements, the nutrition it's going to add to this, I just wanted to add that. So I added about another half a scoop. So as you can see now, what we're coming away with is basically this. And that's what you want, a big, just stick to your spoon kind of fudge that you can roll into balls, you can form into bars, and basically experiment with and have fun with. So that's another way you can use tonic herbs as well as all these other superfoods. And again, if you wanted to do no sugars, you could have done xylitol and stevia, which actually I'm gonna go ahead and add another dropper of stevia just to bring out the English toffee flavor, because I really want that to come in and complement all these other flavors. So that's basically how you can make yourself really quick and easy tonic herbal fudge. You can freeze this, cut it into balls, cut it into bars, have it with you when you're out. Keep in mind the coconut oil will melt at about 76 degrees. So what you want to do is add more powder, make it drier, or use something like cacao butter or something that's going to have less propensity to melt at room temperature. So again, the herbs in here, we had reishi, we had some vanilla powder, we had some whey protein powder, we had pine pollen, we had cacao, we had dandy blend, raw honey, coconut oil. I'm going to go eat this now because it tastes incredible. If you have any questions or comments, post them below, and I'll talk to you soon.